This motorcycle was made for two things. One, winning races, and two, humbling young men. What's up guys, I'm Sean from Srkcycles, and this video is brought to you guys by Rockform. It's an awesome phone case, and you can mount your phone right on your motorcycle, which is perfect for me when you're driving around and you need to see your text messages or you gotta see that someone else called you. It's probably one of the best ways I've found to actually mount your phone on your motorcycle. Now this is a 2007 GSXR1000. And this is this exact same bike as the 2008. That was, the generation was 07 and 08. The amount of performance that you get out of this thing when you buy it for less than $7,000 used is insane. I'm talking, to get this type of performance, the 0 to 60, the quarter mile, the G-force acceleration, to get that type of performance in a car, you'd have to go buy something like this. And what idiot would buy something like this? Now, when the 2005-2006 GSXR came out, it was a great bike. I loved it. It was powerful. It was light. It was actually it was only a couple pounds heavier than the GSXR900 of that year. But then when this bike came out, it was so much better. Now, it did weigh 14 pounds more, but that was because of the heavier exhaust, smog regulations, and stuff like that. The solution to that is you take it off. Taking this exhaust off probably dropped like 30 pounds off this motorcycle, making it lighter than the previous generation, and it was a good 10 horsepower more. This bike puts down 157 horsepower to the wheel and only weighs 460 pounds. Let me put that in context for you. So to put it into context, this is a GSXR1000. This is an incredibly fast motorcycle, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Quarter mile, if you know what you're doing and you strap down the front end and you change the gearing on the back, no engine work, a good rider can do the quarter mile in less than 10 seconds in this bike. Incredibly fast. This bike weighs 35 pounds more and is 50% more powerful. Now, a lot of people think that just because this is a 1000, it's a bigger bike. Like, oh, I'm a taller guy, I need a 1000. It's not really the case. Now this bike's actually lowered a little bit, so it does look a little bit shorter. The 600s and the 750s and the 1000s are all pretty much the same size motorcycle. Now once you get to the Hayabusas and the ZX14s, they are a significantly bigger bike. You can see them in the size and they feel a little more spaced out. Now the biggest difference between these two is obviously the power, but it's the way the power gets delivered. This thing has a lot of power at the low and mid-range RPMs and also the top end, where these things, they don't really wake up until about like 8,000 or 9,000 RPMs. So it's gradual, and then it's just like a rocket ship at the higher RPMs. This thing just always pulls really, really hard. Both of these are gonna have very similar 0 to 60 times. You know, it's more just it's the better rider. A better rider on this bike is gonna be faster than this bike, 0 to 60. But once you get to the highway speeds, 100 miles an hour plus, that's where this thing really starts to show its superiority. Now this was the first year that Suzuki started doing different power modes. It has A, B, and C mode. A being the top, C being the slowest, and with the lowest throttle response. You know, you would put it on C mode if you were running in the rain, B mode somewhere in the middle. Cool thing about sport bikes is people know exactly, the manufacturers know exactly what they are. They never default, like cars, to the safest mode. They default to the most dangerous mode because, hey, it's a dangerous machine, you know what you're riding. Some people say that like C mode is like a 600 and B mode is like a 750 and A. I've ridden them all. It's not really like that. All modes are pretty powerful. It's just more like, you know, C mode is more like a rain mode type of thing. The next first for this motorcycle is the fact that it has a hydraulic clutch instead of a cable clutch. And then they stopped it in the next generation, 09 and 10, and they went back to a cable clutch. Now every once in a while I'll hear someone on a forum or on a chat room or something like that, or maybe in person, talk about how their Harley Davidson is a 1800cc and it must be as fast or close to as fast as, you know, a 1000 or a 600. And the problem, people who are talking like that, they just don't understand what's going on. They've never ridden both motorcycles. Here's my analogy to explain that. This truck has a much larger engine than this Formula One car does. But the truck was designed for highway cruising and towing stuff. But the Formula One car, like this motorcycle, was made to win races and send people to Jesus. They're just completely different things. They have completely different purposes, completely different everything. So you really can't, you can't really compare them in that way. But when you do compare them, this is faster. This is always fast. Even a 600. That 600 Super Sport is significantly faster than my turbocharged CVO Road King. It's not even close. But to see how fast this bike really is, let's take it for a spin. All right, guys, let's do the words of wisdom before we start. Romans 1:16, for I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. Let's take this bike for a spin. I'm not sure about where you guys are living, but it has been beautiful, just almost perfect weather recently. Oh man, I'm excited to ride this bike. I love jumping on a nice 1000 GSXR. 8,600 miles exactly, amazing. Now listen, I know I don't bash 1000s. I love 1000s, but I do discourage people from buying them all the time because they're fast bikes and they kill everyone who rides them. But once you get to that point where you're able to ride them, they are a blast to drive. Guys, let me mention one more time. This video is sponsored by Rockform. They do make the best motorcycle phone mount I've ever seen. It just clips right into your, you mount it up on your bars, it clips right in. You use your GPS, your tunes, all that stuff. On big trips, it's kind of a must-have. Now, I remember the first time I rode one of these, and I fell in love. I actually owned one exactly like this, maybe 8 years ago. I think I bought it wrecked for pretty cheap and put it back together. It's a timeless look. You look at this and you look at a new one, and the average person wouldn't know any different. The average person would not know any difference. The crazy thing about these bikes is first gear takes you the whole way to like past 80 miles an hour. It might be even higher than that. I don't know that from experience. I just know that from what the textbooks tell me. But every single gear just pulls super, super hard. Now you can obviously get into a lot of trouble on a motorcycle like this, especially because it's really easy to go fast. You just, it's just this. You switch your throttle. But once you start doing like turning and brakes and stuff like that, the problem that a lot of people get into is they're cool with going fast, and then a corner comes up that they weren't expecting. It's a little more than what they thought it was, and then they just freak out and they go straight. So to ride a bike like this, it'd be nice if you had a couple track days on maybe a 600, just so you're used to that stuff. You know what I mean? Get really good at braking. These bikes have incredible brakes. Something I've always said about super sports is that you have an extra card. You have an extra card that you get to use, where if you're driving a car or another type of bike and you get in a tricky situation, a lot of times with a car you only have one. Okay, I can maneuver around it maybe, or I can just stop. You know what I mean? Like something crazy happens, I'm just gonna stop. Imagine like a tractor trailer's creeping in on you, He doesn't know you're there, starts creeping in on you. It might be faster to stop on a bike like this. It might be faster just to drop a gear and accelerate. Because not only will this bike brake faster than almost anything on the road, it's also going to accelerate faster than almost anything on the road. Now let's try to do a 0 to 60. These are not the easiest things to try to do 0 to 60s on, because they're just so powerful. There, that was a horrible 0 to 60. Now, depending on who you ask, are these bikes good for highway trips? It all depends on whether you're comfortable in this position. I'm actually fairly comfortable in this position. I've done multiple day bike rides on a super sport. The naked Street Fighter bike, sport touring, is similar, but just up here, and it is just a lot more comfortable. These bikes are most comfortable in just doing sport stuff. This is what you want to be riding when you're on the track. Tucking low. This is perfect. Doing as fast as you possibly can, and then braking as hard as you possibly can.
when you ride a bike like this, it's very easy. It's very easy to go fast. And you start realizing, you start getting real mad at all the drivers around you. You're like, why are you going so slow? And then you realize that they're going like 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. I'm actually pretty surprised that this exhaust is not very obnoxious. It still has like the catalytic converter down there, and it's just a good sound, but it's not so obnoxiously loud. I'm sick of hearing just obnoxiously loud exhaust. What this exhaust really does, just loses a lot of weight. It probably dropped me about 30 pounds taking off both cans. Anyone who's driven a you know, GSXR1000 or have owned one, chances are you probably have two little burns on both sides of your calves from at one point of time riding it with shorts or moving the bike around with shorts, and they just, you put your feet down and I got them too. Don't feel that bad, I got them too. Alright guys, that wraps up this video. This bike is awesome. This bike is for sale. Check out Srkcycles.com. We sell motorcycles there. It's a great place to buy your bikes. We ship anywhere in the continental US, and sometimes we ship anywhere in the world. Remember guys, it is not what you're riding, but where you're going.